Jamie and I met each other when we were in university. I guess I'll say nice Christian boy meets naive Jewish girl. And Jamie was the first person that I ever heard anything about faith or Jesus from my family. Both my parents are first generation from Russian immigrants, grew up during the Depression. I had no idea about anything about Jesus or Christianity. And Jamie was the first person to ever share the gospel with me. Honestly, it was crazy talk for me. I didn't understand anything he was saying, and I pretty much didn't want to hear it because I didn't think it was for me. After spending some time with him, I realized that the words he was speaking to me were words of life and words of truth.
Wow.
But honestly, I didn't think that I could ever embrace it because there was such a strong Jewish identity for me. And what did it mean for all my ancestors that came before me? So it took a lot of conversations with my parents, my rabbi, other Jewish friends, meeting other believers before I could really embrace Jesus as a Messiah. And that took about 2 years. So that's the short version of that. Jamie and I got married about 3 years later. He always had a dream to be a police officer, and he probably shared that in the episode he
Yeah.
did with you. So people can go back and find that. That's an amazing story. And I would say we were living the American dream at that point, and when I say that, I mean, get married, move from an apartment, save our money, buy a house. He's got his dream job. I was a teacher, start having babies, just developing and moving up in the world. And suddenly he is recruited by the State Department in his 5th year of being a police officer. He was an amazing, decorated, award-winning police officer because he just trusted his gut and was trying to find a new way to police. And he wasn't a law enforcer. He was a server and protector. And that's what made
Wow.
all the difference.
And he
And that,
was, and that's that in that. And we didn't actually get too much into that story when he was on my podcast. I know a lot of people have heard, but in that he was already hearing from the Lord. And that was a big piece in his job, correct? Was that part of your family as well? I mean, you went from being raised Jewish with your family and now you're in a Christian household. How are you doing it with all of
well,
that?
it's really interesting because Jamie's from a very, very conservative faith background. We always joke around and say, if you raised your hands in his church, it better be to ask to go to the bathroom and nothing else, because it was that conservative. And so at that time, he wouldn't have called it here. We wouldn't have called it hearing from God. We didn't know that terminology. It would have been more like kind of just an intuitive gut sense from God. And he was really trying to develop that in his police work because when he trusted it, usually, not always, but usually things went really well for him. And he would find a child that was kidnapped, or he would trust his gut about de-arresting someone he caught in a felony case, and then that person later became an informant for him that solved a lot of cases. That story's out there in a lot of places that people can find. But anyway, so he was trying to develop that, and he just would have called it like a sense from God. But that's the thing that caused the State Department to catch their eye. He was doing something different that nobody was doing, and they didn't care how he did it. Like he would say he prayed, and they're like, we don't want to hear that. But what we
Mm-mm.
like is the fruit of what we see. At the same time, we went to a great church and everything. And I really had a heart to see people like myself who had never had a chance to hear the truth of the gospel, hear it, learn it, and know it. And so I had a passion for that. So we're kind of pursuing these different paths, but together. And when Jamie was recruited by the State Department to move overseas into a Muslim country, that's what got us on this trajectory to move overseas. That was kind of a 2-year process. We never actually worked for the State Department because that would have meant that if we employed these trusting God, trusting that intuitive sense, I mean, Jamie would like invite gang members home to our house to have dinner with us, or he would invite people breaking the law to spend the weekend at our house. He would lead them to faith. He would introduce them to Jesus, and they would totally change the way they thought about everything. And they would stop doing what they were doing, and just have a huge shift in thinking. And this is what made him famous on the police department, but he wouldn't say how he did it because he would get fired. Right. But nobody brings criminals home. And so what the State Department asked him to do was to do this in a Muslim context. Well, back in the 80s, this was just unheard of. They said, we don't like the way you do it, but we like the results, the fruit. Right. But Jamie knew that if we went and he was using these unique methods to share the gospel, that if it was going to really work and they found out he was connected to the State Department somehow, they would ruin it.